Hey, I want to thank you guys for clicking this video. We are going to be inking and coloring this medieval spawn. This is a character I think visually is just super cool. Excited to finally do this one. Right now I have my pencils done and I'm just moving along in the inking process. Just kind of getting most of the line work inked right now. Part of what I do with my pencils is I tend to overwork the pencils and maybe pencil too tightly. And so I'm trying to break myself from this, and that way I can do most of the rendering in the inking process using different tools. You can see I'm using a brush pen right now. I just kind of use different multi-liners and kind of get most of that basic line work established first, and then I can get into the different techniques for just getting this thing rendered. Really, I'm just having fun with this one. I'm experimenting here and there with different rendering on the armor and just different pieces of spawn here. Right now I'm using these Dollar Tree ink pens. They work great for me. I've just kind of been using them. They're cheap, and that's awesome. Save a few bucks on some materials. I bounce around a lot. Right now, this is also a Pentel brush pen for comic inking. I also use a lot of Tombos, and there's a few YouTube artists that have kind of put me on using those, like Dr. Raka. These brush pens that you can see me using there are great for texturizing and getting all kinds of cool effects. Also using a little bit of whiteout here, kind of getting some substance here on the axe. And there's me trying to show off this finished ink piece here. Get a look at the line work. I really like how a lot of this is turning out, a lot of textures and fun rendering for me. So now we're going to move into colors, which I will be doing in Photoshop. I got a pretty good high-res scanner, and so I've scanned the document into my computer, and now I'm laying the flats down in Photoshop. And this has kind of just been my process lately. That's just really worked for me. I'm using a XP Pen Pro 13 tablet that I've had for a few years, and I'm very pleased with it. It's very easy to use. If you've never used a drawing tablet digitally before, I suggest it'd be a great one to start with. And as I'm laying these flats down, they are on their own separate layer. I'll go through the whole art piece and get all these flats on the page, and I will create a new layer on top of that and kind of work through my shadows and highlights, which is what I'm doing now. I'm selecting that on the flat layer. I select an area, and on the layer above that, which I will label shadows, for example, and start laying in those shadows with different brushes. And you'll do the same thing with highlights on a separate layer. So thinking 3 layers, right? We have our flat layer, shadows above that, highlights above that is kind of how I like to color these pieces. Now you can see I sort of changed how I wanted to color these armor pieces, and I added a green, more of a greenish glow, and that's going to be because of the sword in front of them and trying to, show that glow on the rest of Spawn here. And looks like now I'm just continuing, adding shadow. So I'll work from each segment, right? So I did the blue body pieces, and now I'm tackling all the red, adding shadows and highlights for each of those. It's actually really sped up my whole processes by working that way. I have a lot of background in painting, both traditionally and digitally, and so part of making the transition and getting myself focused on strictly comic book art has been some adjustments along the way. I mean, I could definitely, keep working in those painterly styles and techniques, but I just more of a personal choice, trying to get myself into strictly comic book style right now, and then maybe it can evolve into more of the painterly stuff later. That's just kind of where I'm at on my own journey. So at this point, I am just continuing with my process of doing things, adding these highlights and shadows for each of the different pieces. I'm just going to let the video play through. I don't think there's anything that's going to be very different than what I've already kind of talked about. So I'll just enjoy the rest of watching me work. So, real quickly, I just want to chime in here and talk about these weapons for a minute. Now, what I'm doing here is really just adding onto the effect and giving them this kind of ghostly glow. And I did that on a separate layer, just above the shadows and highlights. Now, this helmet, the flats weren't exactly one color, and so it kind of took a little bit longer to get those highlights and shadows in there to my liking, and then just kind of adding some green glow from his eyes here, and really just kind of pushing the metallic surface of it, and hoping to get a good gleam, I guess, off of what would be a shiny object. And now just again, following the same process of adding shadows and highlights to these bone-like spikes and different things like that on his costume. We're just about wrapped up here. I want to thank you guys again for checking out this video and seeing my process of doing things from pencils to ink to color. Just kind of what all of it looks like for me and how I like to do things. Here's a look at the flats on Spawn, and I did do away with that chain kind of hanging out in the front. Just thought it would look better without. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I hope you are, and if so, please leave a like, subscribe if you are interested in seeing more of my work and what I have what I have coming up. Share it with anybody that you think likes Spawn or loves drawing or anything of that nature. This may be a place where you guys want to come and hang out and kind of see what I'm up to. So thanks again, you guys, and I'll see you next time.